Supreme Commander Oran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Supremacy, and looked down at the conquered world below. 7 had fallen 3 months ago. Its people now served the Dominion Collective, just like hundreds of other species across the galaxy. This was the natural order of things. The strong ruled, the weak obeyed. He was a tall creature, covered in dark blue scales, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed a soft orange. He had commanded the Dominion fleet for 30 years. He had crushed rebellions, conquered empires, and burned worlds that refused to surrender. Nothing in the galaxy frightened him. Until the reports started coming. His second-in-command, Fleet General X, entered the bridge with a data tablet in his clawed hand. His face showed confusion and something else, something that might have been worry. "Supreme Commander," X said, "we have received more intelligence from the border territories. The rumors continue to spread." Oran turned from the window. "What rumors?" "About the humans, sir." Oran made a sound of disgust. He had heard this name before. Humans. A species from a small planet orbiting a yellow star in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 80 years ago. They were bobbies in the cosmic scale, hardly worth noticing. "What about them?" he asked. X looked at his tablet. "The refugees from the outer systems keep telling the same stories. They say the humans are different, dangerous." "Dangerous?" Oran laughed. It was a cold sound. "They are primitives. They fight with metal projectiles and chemical rockets. Our plasma weapons would cut through their ships like fire through paper." "Yes, Supreme Commander. That is what the Horde believed as well." The laughter died in Oran's throat. The Horde had been a powerful military force, savage warriors who conquered through fear and violence. 3 years ago, they had attacked a human colony world called 3. They had killed thousands of human civilians, men, women, children. And then they had vanished. Not defeated, not retreating, vanished. Every ship, every station, every colony, gone, as if they had never existed. "They were destroyed by internal conflict," Oran said, but his voice was less certain now. "Their empire collapsed from within." "Perhaps," X said, "but the same thing happened to the crystalline hegemony, and the dominance, and the Outer Rim pirates. Every group that attacked human territory in the last 40 years has disappeared completely." Oran walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. He did not like this feeling. It was unfamiliar. It felt like the beginning of fear. "Show me the data," he ordered. X transferred the information to the main screen. Star maps appeared, showing the movements of various species over the past 50 years. Red markers showed attacks on human colonies. Blue markers showed the last known positions of the attackers. Every red marker was followed by silence. "We have intercepted communications from human space," X continued. "They are strange. The humans do not boast about their victories. They do not threaten their enemies. They simply prepare. They build ships. They train soldiers. They wait." "Wait for what?" "We do not know, Supreme Commander." Oran studied the map. The Dominion Collective had conquered half the galaxy. They had millions of soldiers, thousands of warships, resources beyond counting. Surely they had nothing to fear from a species that had barely left their own planet. And yet, "Increase surveillance of human space," he ordered. "I want to know everything about them, their numbers, their weapons, their movements." "Yes, Supreme Commander." For the next several weeks, Oran received daily reports about humanity. What he learned troubled him deeply. The humans came from a planet called Earth. It was a harsh world by galactic standards. The gravity was strong. The climate was extreme. Predators filled every environment. Most species would have died on such a planet. The humans had thrived. They had evolved as something called persistence predators. They did not have claws or fangs or venom. They were not fast or strong compared to other predators, but they had something else. They had endurance. They would chase their prey for hours, days, weeks if necessary. They would follow an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion, until its heart gave out from the endless pursuit. They never stopped, they never gave up, they simply kept coming. This psychology, Oran realized, had shaped their entire civilization. The humans had fought terrible wars against each other. They had created weapons capable of destroying their own planet. They had poisoned their air and water and soil. And through all of it, they had survived. They had rebuilt. They had grown stronger. Then came the report that changed everything. A scout ship appeared at the edge of Dominion space. It was badly damaged, barely able to fly. The pilot was a warrior, one of the last survivors of his species. He was dying from radiation poisoning, his body covered in burns. Oran ordered him brought to the flagship. He wanted to hear what the warrior had to say. He was placed in the medical bay, but there was nothing the doctors could do. His organs were failing. He had hours to live at most. Oran stood beside his bed and looked down at the broken creature. "What happened to your people?" he asked. The eyes opened. They were filled with terror. "The humans," he whispered. "We thought we had won. We destroyed their colony. We killed their people. We celebrated our victory." He coughed and blood came from his mouth. "We did not understand." "Understand what?" "They remember everything." They grabbed Oran's arm with surprising strength. "Every death, every name, every child we killed. They wrote it all down, they made lists, and then they came for us." "How many ships?" Oran demanded. "What weapons did they use?" "It does not matter. Nothing matters. They do not stop. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender." The script tightened. "They followed us across the galaxy. Every time we thought we had escaped, they found us. Every time we fought, they learned. They adapted. They got better." His body shook with a final spasm of pain. "They are coming for you now," he said. "Everyone who ever hurt them. Everyone who looked away while others hurt them. They are coming. And they will not stop until they are satisfied that you can never hurt them again." They died with those words on his lips. Oran stood in silence for a long moment. Then he walked back to the bridge and ordered his long-range sensors to scan human space. What they found made his blood turn cold. Ships, thousands of them, tens of thousands. They moved in perfect formation like a single organism with countless parts. They were heading directly toward Dominion territory, and they were not slowing down. Oran counted them. 17,000 vessels. More ships than any force in galactic history had ever assembled, and according to the sensor data, this was only the first wave. Behind them, construction yards worked constantly, building more, always more. "Supreme Commander," X said, his voice barely a whisper, "what are your orders?" Oran did not answer immediately. He stared at the screen, at the approaching swarm of human warships, and he thought about the dying's words. They remember everything. They do not stop. They are coming. For the first time in 30 years of war, Supreme Commander Oran felt afraid. "Send a message to the War Council," he said finally. "Tell them we have a problem." The War Council of the Dominion Collective met in the Great Chamber on the Fortress Moon of. It was a massive room, built to impress and intimidate. The ceiling rose 100 meters high, covered in golden symbols of conquest. The walls displayed the flags of 1,000 conquered species. In the center, a circular table held the 12 most powerful military leaders in the known galaxy. Supreme Commander Oran sat at the head of the table. Around him were admirals and generals who had burned worlds and crushed rebellions. They were not creatures who frightened easily. But today, as they watched the holographic display in the center of the table, many of them looked worried. The display showed the human fleet, 17,000 ships, moving toward Dominion space like a slow wave of death. "This is ridiculous," General N said. He was an old warrior covered in battle scars, famous for his aggression. "They are primitives. We have faced larger fleets before. We have superior technology. One decisive battle and they will learn to fear us. Several generals nodded in agreement. Others stayed silent. Before we make any decisions, Oran said, I have asked Intelligence Director Ara to present her findings on the humans. She has spent 6 cycles studying them. I believe we should hear what she has learned. Ara stood. She was smaller than the generals with gray scales and large, intelligent eyes. She was not a warrior. She was something more dangerous. She was a thinker. Thank you, Supreme Commander, she said. She pressed a button and the holographic display changed. Now it showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. This is Earth, the human. I want you to understand what kind of creatures we are dealing with. She pressed another button. The display zoomed in, showing the planet's surface. It was covered in oceans, forests, deserts, and ice. By galactic standards, Earth is a death world. The gravity is 20% higher than galactic average. The climate is unstable. Temperatures range from -90 to +50 degrees. The planet experiences earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and floods regularly. A harsh world breeds harsh creatures, General and said dismissively. This is not new information. Please allow me to continue, Ara said. Her voice was calm but firm. Earth is filled with predators, creatures with claws and fangs and venom, creatures that could kill a human easily in direct combat, and yet humans became the dominant species on their planet. Do you know how? No one answered. They became persistence predators. They did not evolve to be fast. They did not evolve to be strong. They evolved to keep going. A human can track prey for days without rest. Their bodies can regulate temperature through sweating, allowing them to remain active when other creatures must stop. They would chase an animal until its heart gave out from exhaustion. She changed the display again. Now it showed ancient humans hunting on a grassy plain. They carried simple spears and stones. Before them, a large horned animal ran for its life. Watch, Ara said. The council watched as the animal ran. It was fast, much faster than the humans. It escaped easily, but the humans did not stop. They followed at a steady pace. Hours passed. The animal ran again when they got close. Again it escaped. Again they followed. This continued for 2 days. On the 3rd day, the animal collapsed. Its legs had failed. Its heart had given out. The humans walked up to it calmly and killed it with their spears. This is the human psychology, Ara said. They do not need to win the first battle. They do not need to win the second. They simply need to keep going until their enemy cannot continue. And they are very, very patient. She changed the display again. Now it showed human cities burning, soldiers fighting in trenches filled with mud and dead bodies, bombs falling from the sky. This is human history. They have fought 2 global wars against themselves. In the first war, they killed 20 million of their own kind. In the second, they killed 80 million. They developed weapons called nuclear bombs, capable of destroying entire cities in a single flash. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades, ready to end their own species at any moment. The generals shifted uncomfortably in their seats. And through all of this, Ara continued, they survived. They rebuilt their cities. They grew stronger. They did not learn to avoid war. They learned to wage it more efficiently. She pressed another button. The display showed human soldiers fighting in a frozen city. The snow was red with blood. The buildings were ruins. This is a battle they call Stalingrad. The humans fought for this city for 5 months. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees. They ran out of food. They ran out of ammunition. They ate leather and rats and sometimes each other, but they did not surrender. They held the city, and they won. General and leaned forward. For the first time, he looked less confident. What is your point, Director? My point is that humans do not think about war the way we do. For us, war is a tool. We fight to gain territory, resources, power. When the cost becomes too high, we negotiate. We make peace. We move on. She looked around the table. meeting each general's eyes. Humans do not work this way. When humans go to war, they commit completely. They do not count costs. They do not measure losses. They fight until they win or until they are all dead. There is no middle ground. She changed the display one final time. It showed the human fleet again, but this time with detailed information about each ship class. 42 years ago, the Horde attacked a human colony called 3. They killed 14,000 human civilians, men, women, and children. The humans recorded every name, every face, every story, and then they began to prepare. She highlighted the construction data. For 42 years, the humans have been building this fleet. They converted their entire economy to war production. They trained millions of soldiers. They developed new weapons, new tactics, new strategies. They did all of this in secret, without boasting, without threatening. They simply prepared. Impossible, one of the admirals said. No species can maintain war production for 40 years without economic collapse. The humans did, Ara said, because they were not preparing for a war. They were preparing for extinction, not their extinction, ours. The chamber fell silent. The humans have a saying, Ara continued. We do not forgive, we do not forget. They mean this literally. Their species maintains grudges across generations. The attack on 3 happened before many of the soldiers in that fleet were born. It does not matter. They remember. They all remember. She turned off the display and faced the council directly. Generals, I must be clear about what we are facing. The humans are not coming to defeat us. They are not coming to conquer us. They are coming to make absolutely certain that we can never threaten them again. They will not stop when we ask for peace. They will not stop when we surrender. They will stop when they are satisfied that the Dominion Collective is no longer capable of hurting anyone. General and slammed his fist on the table. Then we will destroy them first. We will attack before they reach our territory. We will burn their worlds and kill their people until none remain. Ara looked at him with something like pity. That is exactly what the said General and the crystalline hegemony and every other species that tried to destroy humanity. She paused. None of them exist anymore. She sat down. I have given you the information, Supreme Commander. What the Council does with it is not my decision. Oran looked around the table at his generals. Some looked angry, some looked afraid, some looked thoughtful. We need more information, he said finally. We will send the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet to intercept the humans at the Nexus 12 system. We will test their strength and learn their weaknesses. Several generals nodded in approval. Ara said nothing, but as she left the chamber, she thought about everything she had learned about humanity, about their patience, their memory, their absolute commitment to revenge. She wondered how many of the generals in that room would still be alive in a year. She suspected the number would be very small. Fleet Admiral N stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's pride, and watched the stars. The Nexus 12 system spread out before him, a collection of barren planets orbiting a dim red sun. It was an empty place, far from any civilization, the perfect location for a battle. Behind him, 800 warships waited in formation. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, the pride of the Dominion Navy. Each ship was armed with plasma lances capable of cutting through any known armor. Each crew had been trained for decades in the art of war. N had commanded them through 15 major campaigns. They had never lost. He did not expect to lose today. Admiral, his sensor officer reported, we are detecting multiple contacts entering the system. The human fleet has arrived. N smiled finally. He had grown tired of waiting. Show me, he ordered. The main screen flickered to life. At first, N saw only stars. Then the stars began to move. More and more of them, streaming into the system in perfect lines, arranging themselves in formations that covered the entire display. How many? N asked. The sensor officer's voice shook slightly. 17,422 vessels, Admiral. N felt a moment of surprise, but he pushed it aside. Numbers were not everything. Quality mattered more than quantity, and Dominion ships were clearly superior. He studied the human vessels on the screen. They were smaller than his ships, with angular designs and dark gray hulls. No elegance, no beauty. They looked like tools, not weapons. Many of them appeared to be carrying primitive weapons, metal projectiles instead of plasma, missiles instead of energy beams. How quaint. Open a communication channel, N ordered. Let us speak to these humans before we destroy them. The communication officer worked his controls. After a moment, the screen changed. A human face appeared. It was the first time N had seen a human directly. He was surprised by how ordinary they looked. Soft skin, small eyes, no scales, no claws, no natural weapons of any kind. The human on the screen was female, with black hair turning gray at the edges and lines around her eyes that suggested age and experience. "I am Fleet Admiral N of the Dominion Collective," he announced. "You have entered Dominion space. You will power down your weapons, surrender your ships, and submit to our authority. If you comply, your lives will be spared." The human woman looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. "I am Admiral Wei, United Earth Naval Command. We have not entered Dominion space. This system is unclaimed territory, but I appreciate the offer." She paused. "I would like to extend a similar offer to you. Power down your weapons, withdraw your fleet, and return to your territory. If you comply, there will be no conflict today." N laughed. It was a genuine laugh, full of amusement. This small creature, this soft pink thing from a primitive world, was offering him the chance to retreat. "You are outnumbered more than 20 to 1, he said. "Your weapons are inferior. Your ships are smaller. What possible reason would I have to withdraw?" Admiral's expression did not change. "Because we have been preparing for this meeting for 42 years, Admiral. Because every officer on every ship in my fleet knows exactly what they are fighting for. Because we have trained for this specific battle more times than you can imagine." She leaned forward slightly. "And because you attacked our people at 14,000 civilians, we remember all of them." "The attacked 3, N said, "not the Dominion." "The Dominion allowed it to happen. You watched. You did nothing. In human law, that makes you accomplices." Her voice hardened. "We are giving you one chance, Admiral. One chance to leave peacefully. I suggest you take it." N ended the communication. He had heard enough. "All ships," he commanded, "battle formation, prepare to engage." 800 Dominion warships moved into position. Their plasma lances charged with deadly energy. Their shields activated. They were ready for war. The human fleet did not move. They simply waited. "Admiral," the sensor officer said, "the humans are not responding. They remain in defensive formation." "Then we will bring the battle to them. All ships forward advance. Fire at will when in range." The Dominion fleet surged forward. N watched with satisfaction as his ships closed the distance. At this range, his plasma lances would tear through the human vessels like paper. This battle would be over quickly. The first Dominion ships entered firing range. Plasma lances discharged, brilliant beams of blue energy streaking toward the human fleet. The beams missed. The human ships had moved, not randomly but with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. They slipped between the plasma beams, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. And then they returned fire. N had expected energy weapons. Instead, the humans used simple metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic fields. Primitive technology. Surely his shields would stop them. The first rounds hit the Dominion's pride. They went through the shields like they did not exist. They punched through the armor. They tore through the hull. Explosions ripped across the ship as critical systems failed. "Damage report," N screamed. Shields at 20%. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 15. We have lost main propulsion. And stared at the screen in disbelief. One volley had nearly destroyed his flagship. All around him, the same thing was happening to other Dominion ships. The human fired continuously, each shot precise, each impact devastating. The plasma lances could not track targets that moved so quickly. The shields could not stop projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. How are they so accurate? N demanded. No computer system is that fast. Admiral, his tactical officer said, voice shaking. Our analysis indicates they are not using automated targeting. The humans are aiming manually. Their crews are coordinating in real time. That is impossible. No crew can react that quickly. They're training simulations, sir. Intelligence reports indicate human military crews drill in realistic combat exercises for years before deployment. They have practiced this exact scenario thousands of times. They know exactly what to do. Another volley struck the Dominion's pride. More explosions, more screaming, more death. The battle had been going for 3 minutes. N looked at the tactical display. His 800 ships were being torn apart. Debris filled the space between the fleets. Escape pods launched by the hundreds, crews abandoning their dying vessels. And then something even worse happened. A damaged human ship, its weapons destroyed and its hull burning, turned toward the nearest Dominion cruiser. It did not try to escape. It did not launch evacuation pods. Instead, it accelerated. Faster and faster, heading directly for the enemy vessel. They are going to ram us, the tactical officer whispered. The human ship struck the Dominion cruiser at tremendous speed. Both vessels vanished in a massive explosion that destroyed 3 other Dominion ships nearby. They did not eject, N said. He could not believe what he was seeing. The crew did not try to escape. They stayed on board until impact. Sir, we are detecting multiple other human vessels on similar courses. Ships that are too damaged to fight are converting themselves into weapons. N finally understood what Intelligence Director Ara had tried to tell them. These creatures did not think like other species. They did not value survival above all else. They would rather die than let an enemy escape. Signal the fleet, he said. His voice was hollow. General retreat. All ships withdraw immediately. It was too late. The battle lasted 11 minutes in total. When it ended, 800 Dominion warships had been reduced to 23. Over 200,000 Dominion soldiers were dead. Human losses were less than 50 ships. N sat in his command chair, surrounded by the smoking ruins of his bridge, and waited for death. Instead, his communication screen flickered to life. Admiral appeared again. Admiral N, she said, your surrender has been accepted. Medical ships are approaching to assist with your wounded. You are not going to destroy us, he asked. We do not destroy those who surrender. That is not our way. She paused. However, I must inform you that your fleet participated in the blockade that allowed the to attack 3. According to United Earth law, this makes your crews accomplices to murder. They will face trial. Trial for following orders. Following orders is not an excuse. It was not an excuse at Nuremberg. It is not an excuse now. Her eyes were cold. We keep records, Admiral. We always keep records. Every ship in your fleet that was present at 3 has been identified. Every officer, every crew member, justice will be served. The screen went dark. N sat in silence, surrounded by the dead and dying, and thought about what Admiral had said. We do not forgive, we do not forget. He believed her. The news of the Battle of Nexus 12 spread through the Dominion Collective like a disease. At first, no one believed it. 800 ships destroyed in 11 minutes. Impossible. A mistake in the reports. A malfunction in communications. Then the survivors returned, and the truth could no longer be. Supreme Commander Oran stood before the War Council on Prime, the capital world of the Dominion. The chamber was filled with shouting. Generals accused each other of incompetence. Admirals demanded revenge. Politicians called for immediate counterattacks. Oran waited until the noise died down. Then he spoke. "I have reviewed the battle data from Nexus 12, he said. "I have studied every moment of the engagement. I have analyzed our losses and the enemy's tactics, and I have reached a conclusion that many of you will not want to hear." He paused, looking at the assembled leaders. "We cannot win this war." The chamber exploded in outrage. "Coward," someone shouted. "Traitor. We have 10,000 ships." Oran raised his hand for silence. Slowly, reluctantly, the council quieted. "Let me explain," he said. "At Nexus 12, we outnumbered the humans. We had superior technology. We had experienced crews, and we lost. Not because we were unlucky. Not because we made mistakes. We lost because the humans are better at war than we are." He activated the holographic display. It showed the human fleet advancing through Dominion space. System after system fell before them, but the pattern was strange. "Look at their tactics," Oran said. "They are not bombing cities. They are not killing civilians. They are targeting military installations with surgical precision. They disable our defenses, then they broadcast messages to the population." He played one of the recordings. A human officer appeared on screen. She spoke in calm, measured tones. "Citizens of the Dominion Collective, we are not here for you. We do not wish to harm you. We do not wish to conquer you. Your military attacked our people at 3. They killed 14,000 innocent civilians. We are here to ensure that this can never happen again. Do not resist and you will not be harmed. Your military leaders will face justice for their crimes. You will not be punished for their actions." The recording ended. "They are clever," Oran said. "They are separating our military from our civilian population. Our people are not fighting them. In many systems, civilians are welcoming the humans as liberators. Our soldiers are surrendering without battle because their families are telling them to." General stood. His face was dark with anger. "Then we force them to fight," he said. "We place military installations in civilian areas. We use our own people as shields. The humans will have to kill civilians to reach us." Oran shook his head. "We tried that at the system. The humans identified every military target within the civilian zones. They destroyed them with precision strikes that caused 0 civilian casualties. 0. Their weapons are accurate to within centimeters." "Impossible." "I would have said the same thing before Nexus 12, but I have learned to stop saying that word when talking about humans." He changed the display again. This time it showed construction data from human space. "This is what concerns me most. The fleet that destroyed our 3rd expeditionary fleet is only the beginning. Behind it, the humans have converted their entire industrial base to military production. Shipyards work constantly, producing new vessels. Training facilities produce new crews. They have been preparing for this war for over 40 years. He pointed to the numbers. Every month the human fleet grows larger. Every month their technology improves. They learn from each battle. They adapt. They get better. We cannot match their production rate. We cannot match their rate of improvement. Even if we won every battle from now on, they would simply build more ships and come back." "Then what do you suggest?" one of the admirals asked. "That we surrender." "No," Oran said. "I suggest we retreat." The council fell silent. "Retreat," and said, "You want the Dominion Collective, the greatest empire in galactic history, to run from these primitives." "I want the Dominion Collective to survive," Oran replied. "The humans have made their goals clear. They are not here to conquer us. They are here to remove our ability to threaten them. They want justice for 3. They want guarantees that we will never attack them again." He turned off the display, and face the Council directly. If we continue to fight, we will lose. It may take a year. It may take 10 years, but we will lose. And when we lose, the humans will not stop at removing our military capability. They will dismantle the Dominion entirely. They will scatter our species across the galaxy. They will make certain that we can never rise again. He let that sink in. But if we retreat now, if we give them what they want, if we hand over the officers responsible for 3, then the Dominion survives. Weakened, yes. Humiliated, yes. But alive. You want us to hand over our own officers, an admiral said. Our own people. I want us to survive. Those officers made a choice. They participated in the murder of 14,000 civilians. Now the humans want them to face trial. If we protect them, we will all pay the price. If we surrender them, only they suffer. The debate continued for hours. Some called Iran a coward, others called him a traitor. But as the hours passed, more and more council members began to agree with him. The battle data from Nexus 12 was undeniable. The production numbers from human space were terrifying. The choice was between pride and survival. Finally, a vote was called. It was close, but the result was clear. The Dominion Collective would retreat. Iran issued the order that night. All Dominion forces were to withdraw from human-contested space. A buffer zone would be established, monitored by human sensors. All military personnel who participated in the 3 blockade would be surrendered for trial. The reaction was immediate. Some officers refused to comply. They launched attacks against the human fleet, hoping to inspire resistance. The humans destroyed them within hours. Other officers fled to the outer territories, hoping to escape justice. Human ships followed them, patient and relentless. Over the following months, the retreat continued. System by system, the Dominion pulled back. Human forces advanced, always staying just behind the withdrawing Dominion ships. They did not attack unless provoked. They simply followed. Iran watched the updates from his command center on Prime. Each day, more territory was lost. Each day, more officers were surrendered to human custody. Each day, the Dominion grew smaller. Half the council called him a coward. The other half had seen the casualty reports from those who chose to fight. One evening, Intelligence Director Ara visited him in his office. She looked tired, but there was something like respect in her eyes. "You made the right choice," she said. "Tell that to the families of the officers we surrendered," Iran replied bitterly. "Those officers murdered 14,000 people. Children, Commander. They burned alive inside their homes while Dominion ships prevented rescue operations. Whatever happens to them, they earned it." Iran was silent for a long moment. "The humans are strange," he said finally. "Any other species would have destroyed us completely. They had the power. They had the justification. But instead, they accepted our surrender. They are treating our prisoners fairly. They are not harming our civilians." "They are not conquerors," Ara said. "They do not want territory or resources or slaves. They only want safety. They only want justice." She paused. "In their own way, they are more moral than we are." "That is not comforting." "It was not meant to be, but it should give us hope. If we keep our promises, if we do not threaten them again, they will leave us alone. They are not cruel. They are simply careful." She stood to leave, then stopped at the door. "There is one more thing, Commander. Our intelligence suggests that the humans are not keeping all of their new territory. Once they are satisfied that we cannot threaten them, they plan to withdraw most of their forces. They will maintain sensor platforms and patrol ships, but they will not occupy our former systems." "Why?" "Because they do not want an empire. They just want to go home and live in peace." She shook her head slowly. "After 42 years of preparing for war, all they want is peace. I think that might be the strangest thing about them." She left. Iran sat alone in his office, watching the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, the human fleet waited, patient and unstoppable. They had broken the greatest empire in galactic history without hate, without cruelty, without joy. They had simply remembered an injury and refused to forget until justice was served. He wondered if his species would ever truly understand them. He doubted it. 5 years had passed since the retreat. The neutral station of Harmony Point floated in the space between human and Dominion territory. It was a massive structure, built specifically for diplomatic meetings. Neither side controlled it. Neither side claimed it. It existed only for moments like this, when former enemies needed to talk. Oran walked through the station's corridors, and he felt like a ghost. He was no longer Supreme Commander. That title had been stripped from him 2 years ago by a council that blamed him for the Dominion's humiliation. He had accepted the punishment without argument. He knew the real reason they were angry was not that he had ordered the retreat, but that he had been right to do so. Those who had opposed him, who had called him coward and traitor, were mostly dead now. They had launched honorable attacks against human forces. They had refused to surrender when ordered. The humans had destroyed them without hesitation. Now Oran was here as a consultant. The peace negotiations had reached a critical stage. The human delegation had specifically requested his presence. He did not know why. He entered the main conference room and saw her immediately. Admiral Wei sat at the far end of a long table. She looked older than she had on the view screen 5 years ago. Her black hair was more gray now. The lines around her eyes had deepened. She wore a simple uniform, dark blue with gold trim. No medals, no decorations, nothing to show that she had commanded the fleet that had broken the Dominion. She stood when he entered. "Commander Oran," she said, "thank you for coming." "I am no longer a commander," he replied, "just Oran now." "Then just will do for me." She gestured to a chair across from her. "Please sit. I wanted to speak with you privately before the official negotiations resume." He sat. The table between them seemed very large. "Why did you ask for me specifically?" he asked. "Because you were the one who ordered the retreat. You were the one who understood what was happening. The other Dominion leaders at that time either fought and died or they fled and were captured. You are the only one who made the intelligent choice." She paused. "I respect that." "Respect?" Oran could not hide his surprise. "I surrendered your enemies. I gave you everything you wanted." "Yes, and by doing so you saved millions of lives. Dominion lives. Human lives. If you had fought to the end, we would have been forced to destroy your entire civilization. Instead, we reached an agreement. The killing stopped." She folded her hands on the table. "I want you to understand something, Oran. We did not want this war. We did not enjoy it. Every death on both sides was a tragedy. My people have been fighting for 5 years, some of them for their entire adult lives, entire generations defined by this conflict. We are tired." "Then why?" The question had burned in him for years. "Why pursue us across the galaxy? Why not simply defend your borders? You could have stopped after Nexus 12. You had proven your strength. No one would have challenged you again." Was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the table and pressed a button. A holographic image appeared. A young girl, perhaps 7 years old by human standards. She had black hair likes and a bright smile that showed missing teeth. Her name was Ling said. "My niece, my sister's daughter, she was killed at 3. She was 7 years old." Oran stared at the image. "The bombed her school," continued. "It was the first target they hit. A school, full of children. They killed 342 children in that attack alone, including Ling." She turned off the hologram and put the device away. "I remember when I got the news. My sister called me screaming. She could not form words, just sounds, animal sounds. I had never heard anything like it. The sound of a parent who has lost a child." His voice remained steady, but her eyes glistened. "That sound echoed through human space for weeks. thousands of families making that same sound. And when the screaming stopped, something else began, planning, building, waiting. She looked directly at Iran. You asked why we pursued you across the galaxy, because if we had only defended, you would have tried again. Maybe not you, maybe not the Dominion, but someone, in 10 years, 100, 1,000, your species or some other species would have seen humanity as prey that escaped. They would have thought we were weak. They would have attacked again. She leaned forward. We had to make certain, not just to you but to every species watching, that attacking humans has consequences. Consequences that span generations. Consequences that no one can escape, no matter how far they run, no matter how long they hide. So this was all about sending a message, Iran asked. Partly, but it was also about justice. Every officer who participated in the attack on 3 has faced trial, every one. We tracked them across the galaxy. We found them hiding in the outer territories. We found them living under false names on distant worlds. We found them all, and they answered for what they did. And now is the message sent? Is the justice complete? Nodded slowly. Almost. The treaty we are signing today will establish permanent peace between humans and the Dominion. You will be allowed to exist. Your territory will be defined. You will govern yourselves, but you will never again have the military capability to threaten human space. And you will teach your children what happened. You will make certain they remember. We will remember, Iran said, for a very long time. Good, because we will never forget. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars drifted past. We are not conquerors, Iran. We do not want to rule your people. We do not want to take your worlds. We just want to live in peace. But we have learned through thousands of years of history that peace must be protected, that evil must be confronted, that those who harm the innocent must face consequences. She turned back to him. We are gardeners in a way. We do not destroy every threat we encounter, but we prune. We cut back the parts of the galaxy that grow too aggressive, too cruel, too dangerous. We make certain that predators understand they are not the top of the food chain. Iran thought about this for a long moment. And if another species attacks you, in the future, then we will remember, and we will respond, as we always have, as we always will. She returned to her seat. We are a patient species, Iran. We can wait a very long time, and we never forget. The treaty was signed that afternoon. The Dominion Collective was permitted to exist, diminished but alive. A buffer zone separated their space from human territory. Human sensor platforms monitored their military activities. The officers responsible for 3 had all been tried and sentenced. As Iran left the station, he passed an observation deck. A group of human children were playing near the windows, laughing and chasing each other. They pointed at the stars and made up names for the distant lights. They were so small, so fragile, so young. And yet their parents had built an armada that had broken the greatest empire in galactic history. Their grandparents had built the weapons that could destroy worlds. Their ancestors had walked across continents, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Iran watched the children play, and he finally understood. Humans were not dangerous because of their ships or their weapons or their numbers. They were dangerous because of their memory, because they remembered every injury, every slight, every dead child. They wrote it all down. They passed the stories to their children. They built monuments and museums and memorials. They never forgot. And they never stopped. He thought about the warning the dying had given him years ago. They remember everything. They do not stop. They are coming. He had not understood then. He understood now. Somewhere in the galaxy someday, another species would make the same mistake. They would see humanity and think them weak. They would attack human colonies, kill human civilians, threaten human children. And the humans would remember. They would record every name, every face, every story. They would build their ships, train their soldiers, develop their weapons. And then, years or decades or centuries later, they would come. Patient, relentless, unstoppable. Because that was what humans did. They remembered, they prepared, they waited. And eventually, they collected their debts. Every single one.